storm coming.
You sound like you're looking forward to it.
I'm adaptable.
Nothing held back. Admirable, but mistaken. Oh, you think darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was already a man. By then it was nothing to me but blindness. We will destroy Gotham. And then, when it is done, and Gotham is ashes, then you have my permission to die.
Then you have my permission to die.
And welcome back, listeners, to the Film Realcast, where we're going to finish off arguably the greatest superhero trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises. I'm with Nim. I am also with Stu via the interwebs, but I'm not with Graham. Stu, Nim, hello.
How you doing, mate? You good?
I'm very good.
Wonderful.
Good evening, mate.
Sound very serious there, Nim.
Sorry, mate. Good evening.
Why can't young Graham be here? Anyone know?
I think he's on a leadership course in Orpington at the moment.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that. Or he's got a girlfriend. I don't know. He's either got a girlfriend or he's on a sports leadership skill-based kind of activity night. So, but I wish him all the best. So when you listen to this, Graham, we all send our regards, mate.
Yes. The Dark Knight Rises. Stu, it is the longest one. 2 hours, 40 minutes, you were saying.
It is the longest one, yeah. And I think they were saying that each one is extended by something like 12 minutes exactly from Begins to The Dark Knight to The Dark Knight Rises, which is quite strange. But yeah, this is quite a heavy going film because it ties in so much, and you have to watch it at least 2 or 3 times. I mean, I watched it twice this week, and I was still kind of tying the ends off with different plot lines because there are so many plot lines going on.
No, yeah, there is so much. I mean, it ties in greatly with the second one, and obviously the first one. So I guess, Stu, you're the one with the notes. Stu, you are the most organised one out of all of us. You are.
I have to be. The only reason being, it's because I have to be. It's not out of choice.
It's true. That's true. That's true. You're not the film reviewer we need. You're the film reviewer we deserve.
You are so kind. You're just crawling. I've got a synopsis. You haven't got to worry. So
good. Oh, there you go. There we go then.
Okay, mate. Here we go. After 8 years, the Dark Knight finds Gotham at a time of peace. This is due to Batman taking the fall for Harvey Dent's murder. However, a new evil force named Bane has arrived in Gotham to take over the city and expose the truth behind who Harvey Dent really was, courtesy of Jim Gordon, which we'll talk about later. Now that Wayne Manor has been completely rebuilt, Bruce Wayne has become a recluse, rarely leaving the estate. And with Bane taking over the city by force, it forces Batman to come out of retirement. But his allies are very few and far between. And the elusive jewel thief by the name of Selina Kyle could be the only key to stopping Bane. But whose side is she really on? And that's a synopsis. So, Nim, tell me. We're going to go through this. It's a long film, so I think we'll go through it just bit by bit, try and do it from start to finish. Obviously, we'll tangent left, right and centre, no doubt. But you've not seen this before you watched it the other day, is that right?
That's correct, mate. I was telling James earlier today that this, I have to say, is the best one out of all of them. I absolutely enjoyed it. And when you guys mentioned how long this film is, it didn't even feel really long. I just didn't want the film to end. It was absolutely amazing. You know, all the, like you say, it ties in. This is the film that kind of really made me understand what was going on in the first one and the second one. It all interconnects like a little puzzle. Yeah, it was absolutely great.
Yeah, because it is a true trilogy rather than 3 standalone films that you can't just watch one of them. You can't just watch The Dark Knight because people say what a great film it is. I mean, you can obviously watch it, but you wouldn't appreciate where some of the plot lines are coming from and why some people are doing certain things. Unlike, I think if you watch The Winter Soldier, you could easily watch that, then work out who the character is, and you could still enjoy it. And you wouldn't be affected so much by the storylines. But I think with the Dark Knight trilogy, you really have to watch them, obviously, in order to appreciate what huge films they actually are, and the work that Christopher Nolan did when he directed it and wrote it with Jonathan Nolan. The work they put in and how much thought they put in was incredible.
No, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
So, sorry, go on, James.
What I was going to say to you, do you know, though, if when they were writing Batman Begins, they had this as an end result? Or was it, or in terms of, had they written or at least planned the trilogy in their heads when you know, they did the first film?
I think they planned all of them, to be honest. I mean, that's why Nolan's gone through and done all of them. But I mean, the work that's gone into it, and the writing and the detail, and they've kept the kind of the same storyline and the same mood throughout. I mean, the first one's obviously the creation, then the other one's about revenge with regards to the Dark Knight with Rachel and everything, and this one's really dark about pain and anger, and really there's not much Batman. There's a lot of it is Bruce Wayne when he's kind of being a victim, when he's broke, when he's just being Bruce Wayne, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, whether or not Batman gets less screen time pro rata in this film compared to the others, you definitely felt like you were getting a lot less Batman in this film.
Yeah, and I thought that was good because Christian Bale's such an amazing actor that you can see him for what he is, and I think this was some of the best acting that he's done as Bruce Wayne than in any of the films at all. I think this one stood out. You're
right. There's the one problem I had with this film, and I don't. It's not really a negative though. Was the fact that okay, Batman Begins, you've got it finishes 9 months on. You've got The Dark Knight, which is set 9 months after Batman Begins. Okay. Now, by looking at the history of this, Bruce Wayne retires. So the idea is we believe, or set to believe, he pretty much retires as Batman after the whole Harvey Dent Joker fiasco. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Which means he's pretty much been Batman for about a year. And that's it.
Right, yeah.
And that's the one thing I struggled, the fact that he's only been Batman, really, for not very long in his life, and then just retired. So he's been Batman for maybe a year, not much longer than that. He's actually been Batman, which is a drop in the ocean, essentially. And
yeah.
For me, that was really the only negative thing on that film, which is to me, I would say, it makes sense, but I just struggled with. I don't know if either of you did.
What do you think, Nim?
Do you know what? I don't know what to say, really. I mean, I just think, in terms of what you're saying, James, like we talked about earlier, this could be any other kind of film, couldn't it, if the superhero wasn't in there? And I think, I was saying, even Mrs. P was watching it with me last night, and she never watches, let alone superhero films, any sci-fi films, and she absolutely loved it. And I think that's mostly probably down to not seeing Batman in his costume all the time, and it's actually, there's a proper storyline to it. Like the emotional bit, I think, you know, Michael Caine's role in this film, you really see him kind of, there's like he's pulling on the heartstrings when he's talking about what he wants for Bruce Wayne, that he's heard him cry as a baby right the way through, doesn't want him to die. And I guess you've never really seen that before, because before you've just seen him as Alfred the butler, doing what his master asks him to do. It's a very different kind of story, I think, this one.
Yeah, and that was. I mean, we'll talk about it more later on, but that's one thing I thought about when he went to the doctor and they said he's got no cartilage in either knees. He's got tissue bruising. I think he's had a bruise on the brain, and he's got all these injuries. He's walking with a stick, but he's only been Batman for a year. And at the end of the Dark Knight, when you see him run away from after Harvey Dent's death, I mean, he's jumping on kind of those big cargo holding things, and he's running away and stuff like that. So I don't know where these injuries have come from, and that he's needs to walk with a walking stick. I don't know if that's just put in the plot line of how he kind of rebuilds, regenerates, or the fact that he's not strong enough physically, even though he might be willfully, to take on Bane later on in the film. I don't know, but whether they kind of set that up.
You're right. I mean, I think in hindsight, the simple thing would have been basically, if you're going to do that, if he's going to retire at the end of The Dark Knight, was to basically have that film clearly 3 or 4 years after the end of Batman Begins, and we wouldn't be having this conversation, you know?
But yeah.
But the other thing, when you talk about the injuries and things, like, for example, you see him running away at the end of Dark Knight, you know, and then you're kind of led to believe in this new film where, you know, the opening scene where you see him kind of hobble, or the first time you see Bruce Wayne, he's hobbling along on a walking stick, and you do wonder. I know, like we've said in the past, Christopher Nolan kind of does things in his films that doesn't really need to be explained. You should be able to figure it out. But that is one that you think, well, what's happened to him to make him bloody walk around on a walking stick? And then secondly, if he's so good at regenerating, when, you know, I know I'm going a bit ahead here, but when someone, you know, Bane breaks his back, that's, you know, breaking a back is not a small thing. To be able to kind of recover from that.
Well, I think he dislocates his back. He doesn't actually break it. He dislocates it, yeah.
But that was a recovery in a few months when he was in the prison or something?
That was 5 months, wasn't it?
5 months. So, yeah. Little inconsistencies there, but I don't know, it could just be me being a bit picky about things.
Yeah, I think you just go along with it, with the storyline, don't you?
Yeah,
because there's just so much happening, and you obviously you have that element of disbelief anyway, and I think if the film's such a good film, then you just go along with this and think, oh well, that must have happened anyway. Let's just work out what's going to happen now because of this, and you kind of reap the rewards if you just go along with it, don't you?
No, absolutely. I mean, the first, I think, you know what? I forgot the actual first scene, but I remember very
talk
early.
About that in a sec, yeah.
Very early on, we see Bane in almost a similar way to the way we saw Joker, basically doing a naughty thing, and it's not clear who Bane is at first until you get the big reveal.
Yeah, because it starts off with Dr. Pavel's on a hood, and I think they're in Africa because Bane is a international mercenary, isn't he? And he's looking after the diamond mines for Dakar, isn't he?
Yes.
So, and they've got the head of the CIA ops, that Aidan Gillen, who's from The Wire. He's quality in The Wire, I have to say. He's I think Dr. Pavel's done a deal. It either goes with Bane, or he goes with the CIA. And I think he goes with the CIA, makes a deal with them, and they want to know about Bane. And obviously that's when they're on the plane, and they make out that they're going to shoot one because they want to know where Bane is. And then you hear Bane speak, and then obviously his mates come down. He says, "What do you want?" And they make the other guys come down from the other aircraft, and he says, I want the plane to crash, or you're all going to crash and die. And I think that's a really good opening action scene.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And then during the plane actually crashing, you get this amazing sequence, essentially. That's almost akin to a Die Hard film, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the plane, the guys, people who haven't seen it, the other soldiers come down and they put hooks onto the side of this aircraft. And they basically tilt the aircraft up so it's nosed forward, and it's just being dragged along. The wings come off, and there's other bits are flying off, and then the back of the plane where the tail is comes off, and all the other soldiers just go away. All the other mercenaries just pull up into the other plane, and it just leaves Bane. And it's quite interesting when he says to the other soldier, "You need to stay here. We need someone to die." And I thought that was quite good, but I didn't work out until the end of the film why they brought that other corpse in, and they took the DNA, they took the blood, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they don't mention why that's happened, and you kind of have to sit with it if you paid attention to it, and you may not work out why they did that until another 2 hours into the film.
There's a lot of things like that in this film as well, in terms of like, I've probably watched it a total now 5-6 times, twice in the cinema, and a good 4 or 5 time plus, on like DVD, and you miss each viewing. You normally see at least one new thing. I found.
And I take it they did that because when the plane crashes, they want Pavel's DNA to be in the plane, don't they?
Yes.
To presume that he's dead.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a really good twist. I didn't think comparing. People say you can't compare these two films, but I think you can because it's a trilogy. They're all linked, and if people often compare Empire Strikes Back to Return of the Jedi, they're all a trilogy of films, aren't they? And I thought the opening to The Dark Knight was more impactful for me, and it had me completely caught in the moment than the start of The Dark Knight Rises, with the bank heist compared to this one.
Yeah, I did feel though they were trying to do something similar.
Yeah.
Weren't
It was
they?
an introduction to Bane, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
It's a lead from where the story's going to go, but I just liked the way that the Joker's pulling the strings, even though all the other people believe that they are, and
Yes.
they start killing each other. I thought that was a really good twist, and it was a really good insight into the way the Joker feels and treats people, and he's just got no regard for anyone else.
No.
And I really like that. But I thought this was really good. I mean, it was fantastic action. But in comparison to The Dark Knight, I thought it was an opening sequence. It wasn't as impactful for me.
No. Nim, what did you think?
I thought this was much better opening sequence than Dark Knight. I thought it could be something out of like Mission Impossible. It was kind of once you see that, you're glued to it. The only thing I'd say though is like with the Joker one. I mean, the Joker was your main character. He was the main character in terms of the bad guy in the film. With this one, throughout the whole film, I thought it was Bane. But was it Bane or was it really Miranda?
Yeah, that's interesting because I didn't feel that there was a main character in this because Bane is in it kind of mainly at the end, but he's in it in different segments. The Batman's in it at this maybe from 40 minutes onwards, and then he doesn't come in for another hour and a half, and then you see Selena Kyle, and then you have Jim Gordon at the start of it. Obviously he's on a scene, and then he gets shot, and then he's in hospital, then he's out of it for a bit. So there wasn't one main
And then you've got
character.
Well, what's teased as Robin, essentially in the end.
Yeah, John Blake. Yeah.
And you've got him as well, who basically does the Batman Bruce Wayne stuff while Bruce Wayne's away, in a way.
Yeah. So I mean, and I thought that was quite good that there wasn't a main character, and I don't know if that was done deliberately because obviously Heath Ledger was the main character in The Dark Knight, and you couldn't have another actor that would just make as bigger impact as he did throughout the film, or whether it was just the way it was written because there were so many characters and they were tying up different things. I don't know.
No. I mean, let's get to I mean, one of the first things that a lot of people were annoyed about, particularly I think during the trailers, and it splits people, is Bane's voice. I think it's lovely. I think it's absolutely brilliant. They obviously, it's Tom Hardy's voice, I believe, but they obviously edited it and they did it in post-production. You know, that voice. I think it works really, really well. When I watched the trailer, I was like, oh, I'm not too sure. But after watching the film the first time, I thought that it's brilliant. What did you guys think about Bane's voice?
Nim, what do you think, mate?
I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, the only thing and I don't know if it was because every kind of 20 minutes or so I was asked to go and cut some cheese and get biscuits and whatnot, and I couldn't hear what the hell Bane was saying, and I had to keep rewinding bits. But I found it hard to understand at the start of the film. But it's one of those things, like a radio. After a while, when you listen to it near the end of the film, I could hear him crystal clear. So I don't know if any of you guys found that, but I found it a bit muffled, and obviously he's got something over his mouth anyway. But
yeah, I found it pretty clear, to be honest. I was surprised, as you said, Jay, that obviously the other films that Tom Hardy's been in, that he's got a Cockney accent and it wouldn't work. Obviously, a lot of people wouldn't understand what he's saying. So he's got a really, for me, he's got a really clear voice. And he's like a bloody monster. He's huge. He's built like a brick shithouse. But his voice is kind of a cross between Darth Vader and Sean Connery or something like that.
Do you know what it made me kind of... When every time I heard him speak, it reminded me of Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
It's that really well-spoken, psychopathic kind of voice. Do you know what I mean?
And even when he's angry, he's
very calm.
Pitched, it doesn't change. I don't know whether that's because of the gadget he's got attached to him, but yeah, the pitch doesn't change. And when he's telling you've got my permission to die, when he's telling Bruce Wayne or Batman that it just doesn't change. He's just talking very calmly, and I thought that was a really good twist on the character from what he looked like. He didn't sound like the way he looks.
Yeah, and I think it made him more menacing. Is he British?
Yeah.
He is, okay.
Yeah, but obviously from there it goes to the Wayne Manor, where they're celebrating the Harvey Dent Act, isn't it?
Yeah, and obviously you got Jim Gordon and his speech, and he teases telling the truth, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got that on him, and the mayor calls Batman a thug and a murderer, and whilst he's doing that, Jim Gordon just says, "Oh, I'm going to tell it the way it is," and I wonder why he didn't do that. Why do you think he didn't do that, Nim?
Why Jim Gordon didn't tell everyone?
Why didn't he read his speech?
Well, I think it was probably to do with the fact that Harvey Dent had put away so many. I think was it 1,000 plus stuff, and obviously if they'd found out, if they'd basically said, I mean, you find out near the end of the film that the actual speech, and he reads it out, doesn't he, Bane? It would kind of undermine all the kind of legislation, as it were, why they put these people behind. I can kind of think of, really. But just quickly, on a little tangent, I'm just looking on the internet. Bizarrely enough, do you know where, though, the Wayne Manor filming locations, do any of you know where they were filmed? I've just found the locations and they're quite interesting.
No, where are they?
Wayne Manor was shot in 2 different locations, one of them being a place called Wallerton Hall, Nottingham, England.
Okay.
And the other one, closer to us, Osterley Park in Isleworth.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Blimey, I didn't know that.
So I've got some other locations here, which I'll mention a bit later on when we talk about those places. But yeah, there's quite a lot of the filming was done in the UK. Yeah,
I know the first one, a lot of it was done in the UK, and the Batpod was built at Shepperton Studios.
Yes, it was. They did a lot there, if I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent.
I love tangents.
I forgot what you were asking me now.
But no, I mean, I think it was interesting that he didn't read that speech out, and I also thought it was interesting for how long he kept that speech in his pocket for. I think it must have been 2 or 3 days that he kept the speech in his pocket for. That he either did that or he just wears the same clothes all the time. I don't know, but because Bane obviously gets his hands on it. But yeah, I thought that was really good. That obviously Batman is portrayed as a murderer and a thug. And that's the way that the mayor portrays him. And there's been no crime for so long that Gordon, it just feels redundant, doesn't he? There's no criminals for him to catch. And his life's changed. His wife's and children have left him, and they've moved to Cleveland. And he's kind of outdated now, isn't he? Because he's still a cop, believing in fighting for the cause, fighting the war.
Yeah, they mention that, don't they? He's like, he's outdated. I think they mention that in the film. He's outdated. Yeah. He's basically, the war's over. He's no longer needed. People of his, or I don't know the exact quotes, Stu, but yeah, I remember that in the film.
Yeah, I thought that was quite good. He's not really got a place in New Gotham anymore, so I think that's why later on that he and John Blake is one of the ones, and Alfred as well, who want the Batman to come back. 'Cause, I mean, the war's come back. He's got a part to play, and I thought this is where we first meet Anne Hathaway, who plays Selina. So I thought she was really, really good. Anne Hathaway's part. I was really worried from the previous Catwoman.
Got Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah. And,
I really like Michelle Pfeiffer. I thought she did a really, really good job as a Catwoman.
I thought she did at the time, but I like this. I mean, the Catwoman was a cat burglar, wasn't she?
Yes.
And it really pissed me off when I saw the Halle Berry one. When
don't.
It came from cats, and it was awful. It really was awful. And but it was great because no one throughout the whole film called her Catwoman, even though it was kind of dropped a few times when she dressed up as a cat. When she met Bruce Wayne, but no one actually called her Catwoman, and she was just a cat burglar, and she played many different parts. I mean, she was a burglar, she could fight, she could play the damsel in distress, couldn't she? But she was really good at that. She was really independent, and she was a great thief. And I thought she was really, really good. I didn't know what to expect from Anne Hathaway.
No, and I think I like the Joker in Maze, and arguably, well, not really Bane, but because Bane kind of had an origin story once he got to the end of the film. She was you didn't really know where she came from, and she was quite mysterious. She didn't really have an origin, almost similar in some ways to the Joker. As in, we didn't really know that much about her. Even once the film came to an end, we knew a bit about her, but we still didn't know, that much. I mean, we found out a lot more, for example, about who Bane was and what happened, his origins, rather than Anne Hathaway's character. And I think she remained somewhat mysterious throughout as a result.
Yeah, what did you think of her, Nim?
I preferred the Anne Hathaway Catwoman as opposed to, like, say, Michelle Pfeiffer or Halle Berry. I think, like you said, I think the other, when they've had the Catwomen before, or even when they've introduced the other characters, they've done it in a very kind of comic, slap and tongue fashion, and almost like said, "Oh, she's a Catwoman. She's derived because I think with Michelle Pfeiffer, she had loads of cats or something, didn't she?
Yeah,
or something.
And they ate her, which brought her back to life.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous.
And I think this one, like you say, no one calls her Catwoman. It's almost like she's a professional thief. It's just much more believable characters,
Yeah, and she proves that, doesn't she? She gets into the West Wing, I think it's the West Wing of Wayne Manor, and she cracks the safe that people can't crack, and she gets the pearl necklace.
She's employed by, is it Daggett or something, to get the prince or something? That's how they've introduced her into the film, haven't they, initially?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. She's trying to do a deal to get the clean slate, isn't she?
That's right.
So, and I like the link with the pearl necklace that was obviously from Batman Begins. I thought that was a really good touch as well. Because obviously that's the one that his father was going to give his mother, wasn't it?
Yes.
I thought that was great. And obviously she was there to steal the fingerprints of Bruce Wayne. And a bit later on we find out why she's going to go and do it. But,
yeah, we did, didn't we? Obviously when Bane is reintroduced... obviously to us, and then I mean, after we see at the same time we see Catwoman, that same like I think scene, or within the same few minutes when we realise who she is, we obviously the first time we see Mr. Wayne limping, as we've obviously mentioned before. Basically, he's become a recluse.
Yeah, he's a weak character. I mean, she kicks his walking stick away and he falls on the floor, and it was good in a way because it shows how ballsy she is and what she's after and how determined she is. But it kind of showed how weak Batman is after all this time. But you still didn't really know why he's so weak, why he's become this feeble character.
Yeah, and I still think, Stu, that the film never really explained properly to the extent that I was happy. Why Batman was that weak, but I said we've already discussed that a bit. So
yeah, and it's this kind of meeting that he has with Selina that it really gets Batman interested in investigating, and he goes into the Batcave again, which he hasn't been for a long time, which Alfred points out, and he starts digging up the records on Selena Blake to find out. Sorry, it's not Selena Blake, is it? What's her name again? I can't even remember now.
Selena Carr.
Selena Carr, yeah.
Yeah, but this is another thing that troubled me a tiny bit. He's got this awesome Batcave, which was kind of being built during the Wayne Manor, but Wayne Manor was being built during the film The Dark Knight, and it was still being built once Batman retired. So why does he have all this stuff? It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I just think he's been a recluse for so long and hasn't used anything that he's just stopped and just quit being Batman, isn't he? Just after Rachel died, he just stopped doing everything.
But then again, after the Joker thing, I think, as you quite rightly said, Batman almost wasn't needed anyway after the Harvey Dent Act, essentially, as well, in one way or another.
Yeah, but he also couldn't find... he believed still that he was meant to spend his life with Rachel.
Yes.
And which obviously plays a huge part in this film, as in when he goes to put on the Batman suit again, and he speaks to Alfred, and he says, "You've not moved on." And then he tells him about the cafe story, and he says, "There's nothing here apart from pain and tragedy." So...
and he also mentions, he says, what if Rachel wrote a letter that she didn't love you anymore, that she was going to move on, almost trying to kind of goad him into going down a certain path.
Yeah.
To get him out of that kind of depression. Yeah,
because he knows that Bruce Wayne, basically, he wants to die. Once he dies, he can be with Rachel. He's still got that strong belief, because it's a bit later on, isn't it, that he tells him about the letter, and he just thinks, I've got nothing to lose. If I die doing this, I'll be with Rachel. It's a win-win situation. And Alfred's the only voice of reason who says that Gotham doesn't need a Batman. There's nothing for him to do, and he knows he's going to die and believes he wants to die. But throughout the whole film, it's only Alfred who's the only voice of reason who says, we don't need a Batman in Gotham anymore. Everyone else, Fox and Gordon and Blake, they all want Batman to come back again.
You don't see much of Fox in this film either, do you? Which I kind of quite missed him.
No,
he was quite good. He was like the Q in James Bond type of character. So
yeah,
gadgets and stuff. So yeah, they could have done a bit more with him.
Yeah, and then obviously John Blake goes and sees Batman, and I found it quite entertaining that from obviously Blake says that he used to be in the orphanage, didn't he? Which was funded by the Wayne Foundation, is that right?
Yes.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and that even just for a smile, that he realised that he was Batman. And when you think you got Jim Gordon through 2 previous films, when people say, who is Batman? And he just says, he's the Batman. He just doesn't know who he is. Even that carries on through the whole film as well. It's only at the end when he tells him, but he still keeps saying, who are you? Who are you? He just doesn't know, and I think, bloody hell, you're like the police commissioner, and you can't work out who this geezer is. Everyone else knows. What did you guys think of the voice of Batman in this one compared to The Dark Knight and the others?
I think I'll let Lim have a go at this one after his rant. Time.
I know I've said I don't like the voice, and I'll still stand by that. I find it bloody annoying. But like I say, the film was so good, I could deal with the voice.
Is it a case of
I'm not?
You got used to it after 3 films more than anything?
I think probably. I think I've just been conditioned into that kind of voice now. So
yeah.
No, I didn't really kind of notice it much. I was so into the film, to be honest with you, and that just says everything about the film. That there's certain things that I didn't like about the other ones. With this one, you can put that all aside and concentrate on the film.
Yeah, quite.
So no, the voice wasn't that bad. What do you think it was? Do you think it was worse then? Has it gone a bit more gruff?
I thought so. I thought it got a bit more gruff. I think I understood it absolutely fine though, but it does seem to be throughout the trilogy. You've gone from the Batman in Batman Begins is quite softly spoken, let's say, to the Batman in The Dark Knight Rises in terms of his voice.
Yeah, and I think Nim's spot on when he says you get conditioned to it. I think you just do. It's not a case of, this is better, I can understand it now. You're just used to it. And then it moves on. Obviously, Catwoman goes to she's got the fingerprints, and she goes to this bar. And is it Stryver that she goes to meet, who's Daggett's kind of right-hand man. She goes to meet him to give him the fingerprints, doesn't she? And then she gets double-crossed.
Yeah, basically she kind of gets screwed over.
Yeah. She brings a congressman with him, doesn't she, that she's basically kidnapped from the Harvey Dent party.
Yeah, but she very much so. You see, she's a character that's wise enough to cover her own bases as well. Even though she just kind of gets screwed over, it's not easy to screw her, metaphorically speaking, of course. Yeah, I mean, is it? You see that she's basically quite streetwise and she's very switched on, essentially, which is good. I think had she got there and she doesn't get screwed over easily. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, because she brings a congressman with her, knowing full well that all the police are out looking.
Yes.
So she's already got a plan there in place of how she's going to get what she wants. And I think that's really good, because obviously she goes to give the fingerprints over, there's one fingerprint missing, and then she basically kicks everyone's ass, and she's already set the police up to arrive to do a raid, and then she shoots a commissioner using someone else's gun. The police storm in, and she cries like a victim, and she does that really, really well, goes hysterical. Then she just walks out really calm with everything that she wants. I think that's great.
Yeah, it is absolutely brilliant, and it really, really adds to a character, which is why I think, as much as I did like Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, but in terms of being a cat burglar, and this makes her a completely, fully rounded character, and it makes her more believable. Well, I've run out of words. Drew. I've run out of words.
Because this leads on to, obviously, where Gordon turns up and there's a bit of a shootout, and then Gordon goes into the sewer.
Yes.
And then Bane finds the speech that he had on him, and I think it's the commissioner's been missing, the congressman's missing for 3 days, I think. So he's had that speech on him for about 3 days, and then Bane finds it, which obviously has a ripple effect onto to later on how he goes to screw everyone over.
Do you think, though, Bane knows already? Because he's quite a clever character. Do you think without that speech he would not have had a clue about the truth?
I think Bane knows, because Bane's from the League of Shadows. Obviously, Bruce Wayne went to the League of Shadows. I think Bane knows full well, before that, who Bruce Wayne is and who he portrays. Because he's, for the reason why he's got so much power is since Ra's al Ghul died, that Bane has taken over from the League of Shadows. So I think he knows all the time, all the way along, who Bruce Wayne really is. What do you think, Nim?
I don't know. I like I say, I think I'm going to have to watch this film a good few more times. But I really don't know what to say with that one. I don't know if he knew or knew beforehand or after. Obviously knows after. But the fact he is a League of Shadows, warrior, I'm pretty sure he's got to be quite switched on.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. This Bane is infinitely. I can't tell you the amount of times better than the Bane from Batman and Robin that just like saying his name a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's more of a Frankenstein, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, he still looks, but like a monster, as you're saying. He's massively built. He's got that bizarre voice, and he's got that thing over his face, which is basically nods to the comic book. But he's very, very intelligent as well, in a different way to the Joker. And I think he does bring obviously the physicality, which the one thing the Joker didn't have is in a fight. He's very much Batman's equal, if not more.
Yeah, and again, it's very similar that you're led to believe that, like, Decker is pulling the strings.
Yes.
But he's not. And it's all a plan all the way along, which is very similar to the way the Joker works. Yeah.
And almost very similar to the Ra's al Ghul and the Scarecrow thing, in terms of destroying Gotham.
Yeah. So, Jim Gordon's obviously been he was shot in the leg, wasn't he, and chucked in the sewer, and he was...
Well, he chucked himself in the sewer, didn't he? Yeah, to get away.
Oh, is that what he did? I didn't know whether they threw him in there or...
I think when you look at it, he basically manoeuvres himself into the sewer, and so it's more of him escaping rather than anything else. Because I think Bane ends up killing one of his own henchmen for letting Gordon go.
It shoots him. It says, "Go and get him, find him," or something.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Ruthlessness there.
Yeah, he's a bit of a monster, isn't he?
He is, but when you look at the way, obviously, that one guy died for Bane, on Bane Destruction, he's very much, compared to all the other bad guys we've had in this in the trilogy, he's almost like a cult leader where people will just follow him and do anything he says. It's like they've been brainwashed in the cult of Bane or whatever.
You're right. And if you notice on that starting plane sequence when he asks one of the guys to stay behind, he says, "Brother, you need to stay behind." And I think he says it another couple of times throughout the film when he refers to his like kind of brother, you need to do this. It's like almost like they've got like a little
cult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
But do you know what I'd like to know? And they did it with the Joker as well. You don't know how the Joker got the scars, really, do you? Because he keeps making up different stories, and that's something with Bane as well, like that mask thing. You kind of get an idea. You know, he had a bit of a ruckus or something in the prison, but what exactly is behind that mask?
I think it's good that we don't
Why
see.
has he got that mask on?
I think it's good that we don't see him without the mask, because it obviously adds to the mystery. And I think things like that, only will lead to disappoint some people if you see him without that mask. And for me, I'm glad we didn't really see it, and basically Nolan kept us guessing how bad.
Yeah, because it will lead to more questions inevitably, won't it? That when you see underneath it, people will start questioning why this, why that, and a sense of mystery. I think is great.
Yes, I completely agree. Like the Joker, as Nim said, like the Joker scars.
Yeah, you never actually know. Then I think it's a really good part when Bruce Wayne goes out and he's obviously tracked those pearls and he goes to meet Catwoman at that ball, and that's when he meets Miranda Tate.
Yes,
because obviously it's fusion energy, isn't it? She's backed Bruce Wayne for the fusion energy program, and it's when they work out that it could be used as a nuclear bomb. Obviously, he stops using it, and the company lose millions of dollars. And she's the only one who supports him. When I watched it for the first time, I didn't know. I had no idea who she was, and I didn't know what kind of role or what twist was coming when she was on the screen, even all the way through. I thought that was a really, really good twist at the end of it. I thought it was brilliant.
It was a good twist, but you're kind of, in one way or another, when you put your film critique hat on, you're kind of kicking yourself that you didn't guess before, because there's not really any clue as such. I mean, for me, the biggest clue in her being it is why is her character there.
But the movie lies to you. That's why you don't realise it.
Yeah.
Because every time you think you're going to find out, and they always speak about a boy and who was down in the pits, born in there and escaped. And even when Ra's al Ghul comes back on when he has like a vision, you think then, right, now I'm going to find out. But again, Bruce Wayne says, Bane's your son, and you're kind of tricked into believing that.
True. Because
it's given to you on a plate so many times.
But it was almost too obvious that it was Bane in one way or another in the end. But yeah.
Yeah, it fooled me completely, to be honest.
It did. For the first time it did, but then I think watching it again, it's not obvious that it's Miranda, but in terms of why are they focusing on her character so much, I think, for me, makes it thinking, oh yeah, of course. After watching it a second and third time. Because other than the fusion thing, and this almost forced relationship with her and obviously Bruce, I felt not in a bad way. Why is she still in this film essentially? Because she's done her bit, as far as I was concerned.
Yeah. You've seen it once, Nim. What did you think when you were watching it?
See, it fooled me completely, and like you say, James, when you're saying why was the character in there, I wouldn't even question that. I was just like looking at it, thinking, well, she sits on the board, doesn't she, of Wayne Enterprises? She's a CEO or something, I think.
Well, she ends up. Yeah, she ends up owning it, doesn't she?
Yeah, so I just thought, okay, well, it's his new love interest, somebody he trusts, someone to take Rachel's place. I did not expect her to do what she did at the end. Completely shocked me. I mean, throughout the whole thing, I just kept on, because, like I say, as much as Bea was talking to me throughout the film, I kept on saying to her, when they're doing the flashbacks of the pit scene with the little kid climbing up, I was saying, well, that's Bane. That's Bane. That's showing you how Bane came about.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it turns out to be Miranda, I was just like, shit, where did that come from?
Yeah, quite. I thought that was a quality twist. I really did. I thought it was very good. Obviously, Bruce meets Catwoman again. He tracks her down. I think it's a bit of a teaser, a bit of a lead for what's happening, which he says there's a storm coming, there's a change of class. And she's come from nothing, and you can see that from where she lives. And she gives that warning that the rich are going to have nothing, and the people who have been brought up in Gotham who have nothing are going to have everything they want, and there's going to be a change of class. And that's a message that she says, a warning that she says, that it kind of, first time I watched it, just went over my head, to be honest. It was only when I watched it again and again that you think, yeah, she's right, inevitably that's what happens, isn't it, in Gotham?
Yeah, I mean, it is like a massive heads up for what ultimately happens. But you are, I mean, with the first time you're watching the film, you're not really sure exactly what that means. And as you're saying, Stu, it means almost word for word what she says actually happens. Yeah,
and it's really good. And that's when it moves on to Dagger, and you realise that he wants Wayne's company. When Wayne goes in there and says, right, what can we do? And he basically spells it out to him that there's skin and there's nothing he can do. But he's got to work with the Green Energy Fusion Project to get the money back, which he says he can't do. And that's when you realise again that it's going to be a nuclear bomb if it falls into the wrong hands. And that's when Fox shows him all the new Gucci gear that he's got, doesn't he?
Yes.
And he shows him the bat. And again, once they show him that, again, they drop another, like, a plot lead, is when he mentions the autopilot again, and that's mentioned about 3 times through the film, isn't it?
Yes, it is mentioned. It is mentioned a few times, and particularly, obviously, it plays into right at the end.
Yeah,
Most importantly, what did you two think of the bat? I mean, essentially, it was the replacement for the Batwing. Essentially,
I didn't really like it, to be honest.
No.
I thought it was good. It was really cool, but it wasn't my favourite. I mean, the pod's my favourite. I think that's fantastic.
The bike.
Yeah, I think it's excellent.
Nim, what did you think?
I liked it, but I mean, the bike and the car, they were actually real things that were made. I mean, I just wonder if this was something that was actually a tangible object, or was it CGI'd or something? I don't know, but the concept of it, I thought was great.
So what you're saying is the bike and the Batmobile or the Tumbler, they're basically, more etched in reality. They're more believable. And the Bat, you're not sure whether that is fact or fiction. Where the other two, that they can be built, and pretty much, you believe that even today they can be made.
And it's in line with the rest of the film. Like, everything else in the film is believable, and so that's the only thing, again, where you just think, is that really something that's possible, or is it just something that looks like it's just been kind of superimposed on the film with clever kind of, wizardry on a computer? But I thought it was a great bit of kit for him. Great bit of kit.
It was a great bit of kit. Okay, then I'm going to ask you: take the Bat out of the film. I know it's key to him escaping maybe a couple of times, yeah. But you take the Bat out of the film. Does it really hurt the film? Do you think if you took that out of the film? And it's an
integral part of the film, isn't it?
Yeah.
Only at the end. At the end it is. At the end it is, yeah. But he could have done that in a helicopter. I mean, how important is the Bat to the film? I know you guys didn't like it. I think I liked it, but I also think you could have taken that out of the film and ended it with a helicopter or something slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that they had something new in the film, because every film that they've had something altered or something new. I mean, because when the pod turns, the way it shuffles on its wheels, I don't think. Yeah, that is so good. That even when I watch that now, after about the 7th or 8th time, I still get goosebumps. It's awesome. And I think you needed the Bat, but it as Nim said, it wasn't believable, as in from seeing the behind the scenes, from when they actually obviously driving the the tumbler and the pod and how they tested that and how they built that to specification, that the bat doesn't work, but it's in a film and you just let it go. You kind of accept it and you just go for what it is. I think you have to do that, otherwise you just think, this is shit, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, true. Okay. What did you think of, obviously, the first reveal as Batman? When you first saw, I mean, 45. It's 40 to 45 minutes in the first time we see him. I got goosebumps at the cinema when I first saw that. When I knew all the lights turned off, you knew Batman was back.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. Again, I was sucked into it. I was there. Like, he could just done anything, I would have believed it. I get so excited. I thought it was absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I mean, even the policeman says, watch this is going to be great, essentially, doesn't he?
Yeah, and when he gets shot, he apologises, doesn't he?
Yeah, which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah, and again, you hear that noise of the pod, and I think that brings the excitement again of the Dark Knight, and you just think, fuck it, here we go, this is it now, it's going to happen, he's going to kick someone's ass. Yeah, and I think that's it.
And I think having 45 minutes without the Batman really helped for that moment.
Yeah, but again, that's afterwards, after the event, because actually that came from the stock exchange when
Bane was taking a lot of money.
Yeah, and they used the fingerprint device to basically rinse Wayne's account, didn't they, and make fraudulent kind of deposits and investments and things like that. Which again, I thought was a bit weak, as in the fact that when I know they do state later on in the film that you'll be able to get that money back,
but not for a while.
But not for a while. But why can't they just seize trading and stop the stock exchange once that happens?
Yeah, I think a bit like the way that Nim was describing the Bat. I think out of all the films, I enjoy this one almost just as much as the other two. But I did feel there was more moments where you almost had to suspend your disbelief a bit more than the first two films, where the first two films were very much, this is, Christopher Nolan was, to me, essentially saying, this is the realistic Batman that I'm making. Batman in your world, and, where you believe there is a Gotham, and where you believe there is a Batman, and he can do, this guy without superpowers can do that. And I think this is the first time where it was almost following elements of, for example, like Spider-Man and the fantastical almost. It was kind of borderline on that, where I think I felt myself suspending disbelief because the Bat and because of the stock exchange and thinking, yeah, okay, I'll go with it. Let's see where it goes. And for the first time, I was saying that to myself, what I never did in the other two films.
Yeah. What did you think of that, Nick?
Like when you mentioned the stock exchange thing, but again, I think that's what adds reality to it, because you can't just, reverse like a trade or something that's done on the stock exchange. So that makes it so much more realistic that once that's done, the damage is done. It's not something they can just say, well, yeah, we know someone, was doing something, a criminal act or something, when we can turn it back and reverse the trades. I mean, once it's done, it's done. It's a global market trade.
I know.
So much more realistic.
Okay, you say that though, Nim, and I know it's on a completely different scale, and I'm coming from someone with no experience, but when you, for example, get your credit card hacked on the internet, right, within about 14 to 28 days, you get your money back if you can prove it. And they've definitely got the evidence to prove it there. Now, I appreciate the stock market is much bigger than, obviously, your MasterCard, a credit card. But for me, I felt that if a bank can do that for one person, there's obviously so much evidence there that they stole the money and it was not a legitimate trade that I can't see why they can't hit the reverse button on that. And I did struggle. I did struggle with that a bit. Part of the story.
Yeah, that was the only part that I did as well, because when you bear in mind that from it happening to the actual bomb exploding is 5 months, and I know when they show Bruce Wayne at the end, which I've got problems with that that he would have got maybe he did get his money back by then, and maybe that's why he can go where he wants with the money he's got. I know that Selena, she's got lots of money as well, isn't she, hidden away, so maybe it's her money, I don't know, but that's the only part where you have to go with the story, basically, and just accept what's happening, which I thought it was good. And I mean, it led to a great chase and with the hostages on the back of the bikes. I thought that was really good. And obviously the ramps came up in the city to close part of the city off, and I thought that was all really good. I mean, as soon as I saw the Bat Pod, I didn't care what happened. To be honest, I thought it was awesome.
Did you? But then, how did you feel, Stu, and Nim, when the police were basically told to focus more on the Batman than basically the crime that just took place in terms of stealing millions of pounds worth of money? Were you happy with that they were going after Harvey Dent's killer, or were you like, oh, typical? That's a bit of a cliche. Oh dear. I mean, how did you guys feel?
Nim, what do you think?
I thought it was a bit of a cliche, and I thought it was a bit kind of. I suppose they had to do it because the Harvey Dent is now portrayed as like some sort of hero for Gotham City. But it was only that one particular who.
It was Matthew Modine, wasn't it, who played Foley?
Is he like the kind of police captain or something now?
Yeah.
But it was only him who was quite focused, because he even said, he goes, you know, what's more important, a thief or Batman, the killer of Harvey Dent?
Yeah, he goes, I'm going to do something that Commissioner Gordon could never do.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going to catch Batman. And you just think, so that's just a one-man's crusade. He just wants a bit of glory, doesn't he? I'm going to catch Batman.
Again, that was a really selfish act on Batman's part, because he basically led the police away from where Bane was. And I put that down as a lack of trust in the police, that he's still a one-man show. He still does what he wants to do, and he's got no faith in the police. And that's pointed out by Alfred afterwards.
It is, isn't it? No, absolutely. Alfred tells it like it is, and basically, you know, probably the most significant scene, other than potentially the end scene, which is obviously upsets you, but the most significant scene I think that Alfred has with Bruce Wayne in this film. Yeah,
and because Alfred says to him, he goes, "I've buried enough members of the Wayne family," and he threatens to leave. And that's when he says about the letter, and he says it's a selfish act. And I thought that was a really powerful scene, and I thought that particular scene was the best part of acting for me for Christian Bale. I thought that was a really... He's the only one who's honest with Bruce Wayne and says it the way it is.
I got a lump in my throat during that scene, and I got quite upset as well watching that, and I felt really bad for Alfred. I thought Bruce Wayne was being a dick. Yeah,
I thought he was being a complete dick, but it's obviously he spent the last 8 years believing that Rachel was going to leave everything for him, and he was ready to quit Batman for her, and he's quit Batman, and now found out that Alfred, he thinks that obviously lied to him, and it's all been for nothing. He's got nowhere to go, and that's why Alfred says, you're on a suicide mission, you just want to kill yourself, and I don't want to be there when you do it.
Well, I don't think he thinks Alfred's going to go as well, does he? Because in the morning when he wakes up, I think he kind of runs down the stairs going, Alfred, there's a doorbell.
Yeah, exactly. He kind
of just think, well, you told him essentially goodbye or something.
Yeah, because the doorbell goes, he lays there as if, go on, Alfred, answer it. You lazy bastard.
I know. Yeah, how the other half live.
Yeah, and obviously it's from there where he's broken. His stock options have been sold that forces him into the energy projects with Tate, and he takes her. Fox takes her down to see the reactor.
Yeah,
and basically he opens a door for her the way everything works, and then Bane goes, or Dakar's pissed off, isn't he? And when Bane goes to see him, he says, there's one thing that I asked you to do and you couldn't do. And again, Bane's pulling the strings, and Dakar doesn't realise that. So Bane just simply kills Dakar, doesn't he?
Like it's nothing. It's not even a big deal to him.
No, he just breaks his neck, doesn't he? That's what you believe he does. And again, and that's just, you kind of think, right, Dakar wants to take over Wayne Enterprises, and this is what he's going to do, so he must be in charge of Bane. But then you realise that he isn't, and Bane's obviously got his own agenda, and if anybody goes in his way, he just wipes them off the face of the earth.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, he was using... I mean, Bane was using Dakar very similar in a way that Ra's al Ghul was using the Scarecrow in the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing that kind of puzzled me and still does is that after that, obviously, Wayne and Tate go back to Wayne Mansion, or Wayne Manor, and they both get it on, and they focus on the scar on her back. And I've seen it so many times, I still can't see the relevance in why they showed that.
I noticed that, and I was again. I mean, I've got no idea what that's all about, but they make a big deal of it, don't they? The way they kind of close up on it, and
yeah. Have you any idea, James? Did you notice that?
No, unless I miss something. Something happens. What to her in earlier on that's significant. Obviously, while she's in the prison, but I don't think it does. I've nothing to really focus on. And even when you get the reveal that she's Natalia, you know, Ra's al Ghul's daughter. But yeah, you're right. I thought no, there is nothing there. It's almost like we're missing a deleted scene somewhere to kind of make sense of it all.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I wonder whether the film was just so long and whether they've cut scenes out of it and that wasn't a scene that needed to be in there because everything obviously becomes relevant or later on in the film.
No, no, you're right. I'm scratching my head now as well thinking about it.
Yeah, and I don't know whether the scar is a mark of the League of Shadows. I don't know. But again, if it is, that isn't pointed out later on in the film.
No, it's not. No, absolutely.
So I'm just, even looking on the internet now, I'm looking at a few places and there's not really anything that says that. A few people have got their own theories. It says, but my theory is that he wasn't noticing the scar on her back. It was a brand. And it could be something to do with the League of Shadows.
Okay.
Or from a skin graft of a brand. Yeah, skin graft from a brand possibly belonging to the League of Shadows. But again, it's not known. So I just wondered why they actually showed that, but didn't show any reason why. I mean, if anybody knows, the filmcast at gmail.com, or the filmreelcast, should I say, at gmail.com, and let us know. I'd love to know.
Yeah, email us.
Yeah, definitely. Email us. Tell us. We are ignorant on this one.
No, exactly.
Yeah, and then Batman obviously meets Catwoman, and he wants to meet Bane, and he wants to put an end to this. And again, I wonder where this was going to go, to be honest. When I saw the film originally, I didn't watch any spoilers, didn't watch any trailers, and someone let it slip that he gets his back broken, which pissed me off.
I knew he was going to get his back broken before even the trailers came out. I was strongly thinking that because it happens in it's a very significant story in one of the comics.
Okay.
Of Batman. So I figured. I mean, he's kept quite close to the comics. To the comics so far, in terms of who Batman is and some of the storylines, and I was like, I kind of expected that, even though I didn't know, and I was not surprised. I figured he'd lose his first fight to Bane, and Bane's going to break his back.
But during that fight, Bane calls him Bruce, doesn't he?
Yes.
So that's why I said earlier that I believe that the whole way along from the League of Shadows that he knew, yeah, because it's clearly pointed out there, and he says he's there to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny. And I thought it was interesting what he said when Batman turns everything dark.
Oh, that was brilliant. That line was, yeah.
He said, "I was born in the dark."
You really adopted it, or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was a really evil, cold thing to say, and that was quite a creepy moment in the film. And you thought he's invincible. This guy's not frightened of anything.
No, and you knew at that point, it's a bit like foreshadowing. You knew Batman was in trouble.
Yeah, and you felt sorry for him. He was locked in that building, or locked in that room, and you just see what a monster that Bane is, and he just doesn't care. And again, his voice didn't change either. There was no anger, or there was no regret, or any kind of different tone in his voice.
And when he's smashing his cowl, his mask. I thought it was basically the destruction of Batman, and I thought it was done really, really, really well. And I remember the movie posters. A lot of the posters obviously had the movie title, then the broken mask of Batman on the floor.
Yeah,
which I thought was made for an awesome poster.
What did you think of that bit, Nim? Did you know that was going to happen?
No, I didn't. And I mean, when I was watching that fight, I was thinking, bloody hell, I can't believe Batman's getting his ass whipped. It was a great ass-kicking scene. I've got to say, it was. I did enjoy Batman getting his ass kicked, so it was pretty good. And I actually thought he broke his back or something. I thought, that's it. There's something. There's got to be some sort of twist in this. Whether it's. it's not really Batman or something like that. All those kind of things go through your head because you don't think, how can Batman be getting beaten up by somebody? You just can't believe it.
And even the mercenaries who are on the side of Bane were looking on. They kind of had an expression of almost pity watching Batman get his ass thoroughly kicked.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? They didn't get involved either, and they had every confidence that their mate, their leader Bane was unfortunately going to win. And it's the first time in the whole of the trilogy where I think even where Batman physically cannot compete with his opponent. And we saw him struggle mentally with the Joker, by not understanding him, and and almost like on the other side of the coin, in this way, it was definitely physically he could not compete with Bane.
Yeah, I thought that was a really, really powerful scene. Really powerful.
It was, and basically Catwoman screwed him over. Yeah. And then I appreciate it's a bit later on. It did kind of irk me a bit that the fact that he forgave her so easily.
I have to agree with that. I was expecting him to kick her ass, but he just literally goes, I don't know what he said to her, but they literally just get on with it, don't they?
He shrugged his shoulders.
He meets her again in Gotham and says, I need your help, and I can get you what you want. And he's like, okay.
Maybe it's because he can see the bigger picture.
Or maybe because she looks fit in a cat suit. I don't know.
Oh, well. Maybe
he's
that's
only
the
a
reason.
man, end of the day.
He is. Yeah, he's a Batman, but yes.
Yeah, so they take... I don't know what country they're taking to when they throw Bruce Wayne in the pit.
Well, do you know where that's filmed?
No.
I don't know what country it's supposed to be in the film. It kind of looks... It makes you think it's somewhere like in the Middle East or something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But the pit prison bit was shot in a fort. I can't even pronounce the first part of the fort, but it's in a place called Rajasthan in India.
Maybe it was, as you say, over there. I don't know where it was meant to be set, but I thought that was a really good scene. That again, it's the torture of you can see what goes on, you can see the sky, you can see to escape. There are no guards, but you won't escape, and your torture will be seeing Gotham crumble. I thought that was a really good scene.
Yes, it was.
I think the whole prison bit, the whole prison sequence was. I really enjoyed that bit because you are kind of just on the edge of your seat, willing him to come out, and then when you find out what they're all chanting as well, that kind of makes sense of the film title as well.
Yes, brilliant.
That was great.
Yeah, and it's those little things that Nolan does, which make the film such a good film. That's why I think one of those films you need to watch so many times, because you pick different bits up all the time, and it's just so good. There are so much small bits of fine detail in this film that have been put in there that make the film such an excellent film, an interesting film. And again, it's not like a superhero film. It's like the last one we said, that it's more like a crime thriller. You can forget that you're watching a DC superhero film because it's just so intense. There is so much to it.
Yeah, no, I know. I was saying to them almost this is basically like the Die Hard 4 that should have been almost kind of thing. It would have been better. It would have made a better Die Hard 4 than Die Hard 4.
Yeah. We'll have to do that film as well.
Yippee-ki-yay. Yeah, and it was brilliant. Did you feel though, whilst Bruce was recovering, in between him leaving Gotham and then coming back, did you feel the film slowed at any point? At any point during that? Because there was plenty of stuff going on. It was all quite dark. It was all where they obviously got this bomb, the bomb going off during the game, Gotham being taken over. But did you feel the film slowed down or anything negative in between that mammoth amount of time?
Nim, what do you think?
I don't think it did. I mean, I think, like you said, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but was that the American football?
Yes.
Scene that scene happened in the middle of all that, didn't it? Because you've got.
Yeah, that was the bit used for the. The trailer as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was I thought that was an amazing scene, and that had and I keep mentioning Mrs. P, but Mrs. P was like going, "Oh my god!" her exact words, when all that started crumbling away, and you see that American football player running, and he just stops, and he stopped just at the right minute so he doesn't fall into the ditch and the crater. But there's loads of it's all kind of linking in. Not maybe linking in is not the right word, but it's showing you all the things that are happening in the film that Bane, what Bane's master plan was.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? What I'm saying, so you've got Batman he's locked away in a prison, and all the different things that Bane and what Miranda are all kind of planning to do. Like, they've got hold of the bomb. They've told the world what's going to happen now. They've introduced their new court system. All of that kind of stuff gets put into place. So I thought that was a good bit of the.
Yeah, I mean, while he's down that pit, they go back to the boardroom where Bane's in the boardroom in Wayne's office for Fox, whilst he's with Tate. They go into the armory, and that's when they go into the sewers. And again, the Fox is tricked when Tate says, "Yeah, I'll put my hand and I'll authorise that reactor." Then Fox follows, so it's tapped up and ready to go. And then meanwhile, Bruce Wayne takes the first climb out of the pit, doesn't he? And in between then, obviously, when he says that he's not scared, he's angry. And as Ra's al Ghul comes as a vision, and the doctor in the pit is telling him about a child was born in the pit. And again, you naturally think that they're talking about Bane,
yeah.
Which is really good because the child is obviously is not feminine whatsoever. He's got shaved head, very skinny, very weak looking.
A young looking Ripley from Alien 3.
It is, yeah. Yeah. It just climbs out, and you're still left with that really clever twist. And the police get trapped underground, which is another link to John Blake, where he's trying to. Basically, he's the only police officer left at that time, trying to work out what's going on. And then whilst the police go underground to be as a training exercise, the hole in the sewers, it collapses, and every police officer gets trapped underground, doesn't they?
It does. It does, doesn't it? I mean, it's a bit. Once again, it's a bit like every police officer, really. I know there's a couple scattered about. Obviously, you've got, Commissioner Gordon still around, obviously in hospital. You got essentially the captain, who his character, and obviously you got John Blake, who's really at that time the only one doing anything about what's going on.
Yeah, and then they goes on the football stadium, and I thought that was brilliant. It was a really good scene. I mean, they've got their little kid singing the national anthem, and everything's slow-mode, and the build up to that.
Yeah, and it becomes almost a world crisis in terms of the way it's covered on the news and everything. And for all these months, Gotham has basically been taken over. Yeah,
because while the kids singing, you got the police running slow-mo in the underground, and the people were there is very patriotic. There's a real kind of allegiance to the flag, and the fans are all together. And then, as Nim said, I think everyone apart from the receiving player gets sucked into the ground and killed. And then Pavel's brought out onto the pitch, isn't he?
Yep.
And the only thing that, when I was watching it the other night, I thought, Bane comes out and he picks up that microphone, doesn't he?
Yes.
And but his mouth is a microphone as well, isn't it?
Yes.
So I just wondered if you put that microphone when he went to speak, if he got loads of feedback, whether it would ruin the moment. If he went to speak, goes, "I'm Bane." Shit, this isn't right.
That may well have ruined the whole film, I think.
It would have done. But he turns around, and you kind of think that there's like an allegiance between Dr. Pavel and Bane. He says, "You're the only one who can turn it off." That's right. And he's like, "Well, yeah." Believing I've got quite a good card to play here, I'm not going to go anywhere. Then he just breaks his neck in front of everyone,
yes,
and just walks off.
And everyone screams and goes mad.
Yeah, and he says that, and it's good as well that he says that the trigger is someone there, so you just don't know it, which leads to just hysteria and bloody mayhem everywhere.
Yeah.
And I also thought when I watched it last night that, I mean, just when like the anarchy does come, that's quite hard hitting, isn't it? Some of the things they show when you get the doorman pulled to the ground, you can see some it's a female being dragged down the stairs. I mean, there's like rapes going on and people are murdered, and that's a really violent scene. It's a proper just chaos.
It is, isn't it? And unfortunately, it's scenes which I think, the age we are, we've all seen similar things on the news. Similar. I mean, maybe not people obviously being raped on camera and stuff, but when you've looked at the news of riots and things like that, it's something that is quite is associated with and completely believable that something like that would happen.
Yeah, because the prisoners get released, and that's when he reads this Jim Gordon's speech out, isn't it?
Yes, but which upsets good old Mr. Blake.
Yeah, and then it just goes bloody mental, and the rich people just get shit on from a great height, and it reminded me a lot of Clockwork Orange as well. The scenes. Have you seen Clockwork Orange?
Yes.
Yeah, where they break into people's houses and they just cause absolute mayhem and murder and rape and just anarchy, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, that's basically what it is. 5 months of complete anarchy, where obviously Bane uses uses the Batmobile, the Tumbler.
Yeah.
The non-black versions. He takes the bomb around. No one knows where the bomb is. Obviously, Blake and Gordon do make up eventually.
Yeah, they kiss and make up. I mean, what did you think, Nim, of the anarchy scenes? What did you and Mrs. P think about that?
Again, I thought it was really realistic. It's how I'd imagine stuff to happen when you've got like a government or a city that gets toppled and there's no police there. That's what's going to happen, isn't it? The only thing that kind of, and again, maybe it's something I missed in the film. If they're gonna like Bane's plan was to blow up, or Miranda's plan was to blow up Gotham City, which is something she was fulfilling her dad's dream to bring kind of order. Why give it 5 months? Like, why do the whole anarchy thing for 5 months? Because they were going to blow it up anyway. Why not blow it up from day one? I don't know where they were. I don't know what they were going. I mean, I don't know. Was it?
I wondered that as well.
Was that just torturing? Was that just there to torture Bruce Wayne when he's in the prison? Because they put a TV in there and said you're going to see this before you die or something.
It may well have been. I think, and I think to the whole world, I think it was much more of a statement, the fact that they held the city for 5 months rather than it blowing up straight away. I think that was much more of a statement to the rest of the world than just much more of an exclamation mark than the 2 seconds it would have taken to blow the whole city up.
Yeah, and that's what I think as well. That the original one that Ra's al Ghul wanted was absolute mayhem and anarchy in the city, and people just to take over. And they isolated Gotham in that one, didn't they?
Yes,
and that's what he did in this one. So it's a similar kind of mayhem that he wanted and that he got. And I suppose the film wouldn't have been the same film if he said, "Right, let's just put a nuke out in Gotham and just blow it to pieces." So it was. I think it was believable, and by that time you'd invested so much time in the film that I was quite happy just to go with whatever they were going to give us, to be honest.
No, absolutely. What did you think about the Scarecrow cameo?
Sorry, I was just going to say I thought it was the Scarecrow.
Yeah, it was,
Dr. Crane. Yeah, I thought it was quite good. It was a different kind of character. He wasn't crazy at all, was he?
Well, I think he was. It was not right in the head still.
No, it was. Yeah, it was nasty. Don't get me wrong, but he wasn't the same kind of character, was he? Really?
No, he wasn't. He's the only person. He's the only villain that's been in all 3 Batman films. Interestingly, though, but yeah.
Oh yeah, of course he is. Yeah, he's in the start of the other one, isn't he?
Is it the same guy that plays him?
Yeah, same guy.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good one. I mean, because whilst he's doing that, that's when Batman or Bruce Wayne emerges, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, obviously he fails the climb twice, doesn't he?
Yeah, and then he's told
the story.
Yeah, told the story, and to
Did either of you think he was gonna? Did either of you think he was gonna make it that second time? I did.
I did as well. Yeah.
Nim?
I always believe in third time lucky, mate.
Yeah, because he's told a story about Ra's al Ghul and his daughter in prison.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's right, because that's when he has a vision. But he still believes that it's maybe Bane is Ra's al Ghul's child.
Yes.
So, and you're still led to believe that. You're still being tricked again. And I think because of what's going on in Gotham, you kind of just think, yeah, fine, okay, then let's get back to Gotham. Let's find out what's going on. I mean, that's what I was thinking. There was so much mayhem going on at the time. You're told this, and you think, well, I've been told this so many times now. I've got this message, and it's not been twisted in any way, so I just naturally believed it.
Yeah, no, yeah, and obviously when he makes the climb and they're all singing, the rise or chanting, and he actually makes it, it's good. I think that was a nice moment. Obviously, Dark Knight Rises, it goes with the film title, and obviously it's the rise again of obviously Batman once he actually gets out. And as we were saying, that's when we get the reveal of Batman. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, because they go, obviously, what's his name, Fox and Tate get captured, don't they?
Yes.
By trying to get hold of the nuclear bomb, and the Scarecrow's acting as judge and jury, and it's exile or execution, isn't it?
Yes.
So he casts him out onto the. Is that the one? Does he cast him out? And he doesn't actually get a chance, does he? I'm thinking of when he cast him out on the frozen lake, but that's obviously. Is that this one? Or am I getting confused with my films now?
No, it is this one. It is. They go out on the frozen lake. Commissioner Gordon's there, isn't he? And he's basically he's sentenced him to death via exile, essentially, hasn't he?
That's right. Yeah, yeah, and then you see that Catwoman appears, doesn't she? And she saves everyone. Is that right, or am I just skipping ahead?
Catwoman saves Fox and Tate.
Yeah, because again, Tate still hasn't shown her allegiance to anyone then, has she?
No.
To the League of Shadows, which I thought was really good, because when I watched it the second time last night, I was watching her, especially in the background, to see what she was doing.
No,
they did it really well.
Yeah, but to me, in hindsight, the clue was what is she still doing in this film? In terms of a plot point, really, other than being Bruce Wayne's one-time squeeze, and she's not. I mean, I don't think Bruce cares about her nearly as much as he cared about Rachel. There was not at this moment in time, for me, there was not any reason for her to be in the film, unless obviously there was going to be some kind of a twist. Because she was not needed at this point. Taking away the twist, really, there was no point for her to be in it. Which is why I was like, maybe I should have guessed it, and obviously there's no way I was going to, really.
No, I was exactly the same. When I watched it last night, I thought there was still no clues here to why I didn't guess it.
No, and to me that is the only clue, the fact that she's still being focused on, and I don't think from a storyline point of view, she was really only there, I thought, to help with the fusion reactor. Obviously, the fact that she's still there, she would end up being Mrs. Ra's al Ghul, but
yeah, and Wayne meets Fox, and it goes to the bat, and again he mentions no autopilot again, doesn't he?
Yes. But how did Bruce get on back to Gotham?
That's what I wondered.
That's not explained.
No, but then I just thought, well, I'm stuck into this film so much. Even if they said he swam back, I'd say, yeah, you could probably do it now.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. Then I really enjoyed that massive fight from the police and all the convicts and the public and everyone. I thought that was excellent.
Interesting. Before, obviously, Bruce Wayne frees all the police, we obviously get the CIA or whatever, or the Special Forces end up. The Special Forces end up infiltrating Gotham, and basically, it's so significant that Bane kills them and finds them out with such ease, doesn't he?
Yeah, and again, that shows the power of Bane and how evil he is.
Yeah, and then he basically has them out on display.
Yeah, he hangs them from the bridge, doesn't he? Which is really brutal, to be honest.
It is, and yeah, I do love that fight between the police officers. It's almost something out of Zulu, isn't it? Almost, you know the shit's going to go down. It's going to be like this epic war.
But John, whilst they're doing that, Blake isn't really doing anything. He's just going around the orphanages, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he's
rounding up kids.
trying to get the kids out. He's trying because knowing that. I mean, he's basically been told by Batman, I think, start getting people out just in case. Obviously, he fails.
Yeah.
To stop the bite, and he's doing that. And then you got that significant scene between himself and the army. I think, and the army the other side of the bridge, where these kids are there, and it's that kind of like. For me, that was really. I felt really, really, really awkward, and I completely believe though that something like that probably would happen with these guys following orders and blowing up the bridge.
And again, you see the Catwoman. She blows a hole in the tunnel and can escape, but she chooses not to.
Yes, you're left guessing. I think we kind of guessed she's not going to though. Even I figured she's going to still be back, but it's definitely left open at that point, and we're all guessing. I mean, what did you think Catwoman was going to do the noble thing in the end then?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? It's one of those things. There's certain things you can just read into it. And I don't think that she was going to. I think when she leaves on the is it called the pod, the motorbike thing?
Yeah.
When she leaves, and you think, why is Batman giving her this thing? Because she tells him there and then, doesn't she? She's going to do the task in hand, and then she's doing an off-ski, and why doesn't he come with her?
Yeah.
He's done enough for them, and he still lets her go away. So I had a feeling that she was going to come back. So yeah, I wasn't too really surprised when I saw her return, really.
Yeah, and that's when you see Batman turn up. That's the only time that Batman's ever turned up in daylight.
Yes, you're right. I never really thought about that until you.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool, being the last one that he actually turns up, walks through the scene, and in broad daylight. I thought that was really good. I only got that through reading the trivia. But I thought that was good, and I thought the fight between Bane and Batman was a really good fight. It was a different fight, wasn't it? Yeah,
you felt for whatever reason, you felt that Batman wasn't this time more on a level playing field because I think it's a bit. It reminded me going back, for example, to Rocky 3. Right, I know this is a massive tangent. He loses against Clubber Lang because he wasn't hungry.
Yeah.
And I think he loses against Bane because he was doing it for the wrong reasons, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't
the
hungry.
reasons were given to him down in the pit, weren't they?
Yeah, but like in when Rocky beats Clubber Lang in Rocky 3, Batman is doing it now for the right reasons, and he's almost hungry again.
Yeah, it's the Dark Knight Batman back again, isn't it?
Yeah. He's basically Batman again, and not a shadow of his former self as he was at the beginning of the film. And I think that really shows in this fight scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that obviously he punches Bane and he kind of breaks his mask, and they said that if you take the mask off, you'd be in absolute pain.
Yes.
I mean, what function is that mask serving? Do you know?
I can only, for me, it's a bit like constantly breathing in paracetamol or something, painkillers, or it could be pure oxygen to try and numb the pain that he's in of the beating he got down at the prison.
Yeah,
that's what
I tried
thought.
to see if it was mentioned at all, and I tried to have a look on his back to see if there's anything on his back that was performing some kind of life-saving action on him, of feeding him some kind of medicine or oxygen or something like that. But he just said it would cause absolute agony, didn't he?
But once again, it's not explained very well, which I think is one of the problems of this film, because you kind of get things like that throughout.
Yeah, and
the frustrating thing is, Stu, it would have taken probably 1 or 2 minutes to explain it, if that.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, obviously, he has a fight with Bane, and he uses his classic line, "Where's the trigger? Where's the trigger?" I thought that was quite. It made me chuckle when he started shouting that. It must be written into his contract that he has to shout something out in each film.
Yes.
But that's good. Then Tate obviously reveals who she really is. And when I first watched it, I kind of thought, you absolute twat, why didn't you realise that?
Well, the thing that annoyed me is they're putting a rope round this Batman's neck, and you can tell he's in pain, but he just gives up. That's what it looks like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing? It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah, you're going to be hung or you're going to be blown up. I may as well just give up.
Oh, well.
Fair
I've
enough.
come this far. I've undislocated my back. It caused me extreme pain. I've been in a prison for 5 months. And, whatever.
Everything's a lie.
And for me, that did annoy me a tiny bit, but...
Yeah, exactly. But in the end, it's Catwoman who kills Bane.
Yes.
Yeah, she comes in through the pod, shoots Bane, and takes him out, and that's it. I mean,
we don't really see him dead though. It's not confirmed he's dead, really. I mean, we're assuming he is, and I'm sure he is.
yeah. I mean, it's the same with Harvey Dent, though, isn't it? He falls down the bottom of the pit, and you kind of think, is he dead? And when the next one comes out, is he going to be in the next one? Will there be some kind of part? Will he be mentioned? And there isn't a Two-Face. So, yeah, as you say, you're left wondering. But I just presume that there isn't really any place from the League of Shadows has been taken down now, isn't it?
No, exactly. And obviously, Commissioner Gordon, with help of a few gadgets, kind of diffuses the bomb or stops the trigger going off, which upsets the Talia a bit. Yeah,
I felt sorry for Gordon when he's in the back of that crate. And it falls through the road. He's in the back of it, all smashed to bits. He must kind of, thanks very much for that, Batman. I appreciate that.
And then obviously Batman's got the bat there. They realise they can't stop the bomb. It's too late. They've got pretty much seconds left. But with this bomb, it's a bit like the timer goes down. But the way they explained it, I understood it could blow up at basically any second. And for me, the way they explained it initially with this fusion reactor, it becomes unstable. And when something becomes unstable, there's not really a set time for it to explode. You can only approximate something like that, surely. Yeah.
And the way when he took off the ground, he was smashing it into walls and buildings and stuff like that. It's not a job for the clumsy, is it?
No, but I mean, they say you've given everything to this people, and he's like, not everything. And and at that point, I thought, oh well, Batman's going to die now. Oh well, I got a bit annoyed.
Yeah, what did you think, Nim? How did you think it was going to end when you were watching it?
Well, I actually thought he died, and I know you're going to laugh at this, but I actually thought he died. And the bit at the end when you see him in the cafe in Italy or something, wherever it is. I thought that's Alfred imagining, what it would have been like if he'd just listened to his advice. But then, because I had to rewind a little bit, and then I spoke to James as well this morning, and I realised that it was the truth, and he'd actually fixed this. What's it, autopilot thing?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a bit strange because you see that there's a little clip. I don't know if I was just imagining it, but you just see his face and you actually see Batman smile. He kind of does a little grin.
Yeah.
Was I imagining that? Or that did happen, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know, when he flies off and you just see, you think he's in the spaceship and he smiles. So where the hell is he? Where's he smiling?
Well, I mean, because it's really clever, and I watched it a couple of times because they show the clock. But they don't actually show the clock with Batman there. So they'll show his face, and then again they'll cut away to another couple of clips. They'll show the clock, and then it explodes. So you're kind of left guessing, was he in that? And obviously it was an autopilot at the time.
But he got in it.
Yeah, he did get in it, yeah.
So how did he get out?
Well, there we go.
Mystery. You can't eject. If it's an atom bomb, you can't just eject and get away from a 50-mile radius or something.
Unless you're Graham, because he'd be really good at swimming, wouldn't he? With his
again, it comes into having a sports skill where it would save your life. I mean, we mocked him in episode 4 when we reviewed the Goonies for having a sports skill, but now you could put a tennis racket against the throttle and then jump out and swim. So with a perfect dive. So maybe we're the fools. I don't know.
We are.
But James, do you know what I think about when we just talked about that end sequence? Is what we were watching earlier on, Badman.
Oh yeah, yes. If anyone wants to know what we're talking about, if you type in Badman and college humour, they've basically done a few. I think you've seen a couple of them, Stu. They did a few comedy Batman skits, which is quite interesting, and they do one right at the end where Batman's leaving, and he basically says to Catwoman, "How about we meet up later and go to the same cafe in France for the next 5 months until my butler turns up," which I thought was quite funny, which is quite a funny line. But yeah, and that's actually what happened. We are led to believe that Batman's dead, unless obviously you were watching intently and heard the clue about the autopilot potentially being fixed.
Yeah, exactly, and that's obviously you have to read into it. That's what happened. I mean, you'd have to forget about the nuclear fallout that would happen in Gotham and how many people being ill and the sea being contaminated and everything else.
Which
Yeah.
the nuclear winter, which I thought was, but they did mention it's an atom bomb, didn't they? They did mention
Yes.
that it's definitely nuclear.
Yes.
Okay, definitely.
Which is why he didn't want to go ahead with it.
Yeah, and that is pretty. That is quite the big plot hole, isn't it?
Yeah, but as you say, for all of it, you have to kind of suspend actual belief in real life to cheer it on and get into it.
Yeah,
but
no, you're right. Before we get to the final scene, though, what did you think of the Batman statue?
I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, and what did you think of Commissioner Gordon finally getting the fact that he's Batman, the way he said it?
What did you think, Nim?
Well, again, all these little flashbacks throughout the film, I quite enjoyed them because I've only seen each one of these films once, and I think I'm going to start all again and watch them again a few times when I get a bit of time. But all the flashbacks in this one all make sense, and I thought that it tied it up perfectly. That's all I can say, really. It was I think it was sort of at the end, wasn't it, when he's Commissioner Gordon kind of clocks onto the jacket, putting the jacket on the little boy.
Yeah.
I didn't exactly hear what he said because I'm pretty sure someone was speaking to me at the time. So I'm going to have to watch that bit again. But it was, I think those flashback points were perfect.
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was good. I mean, I kind of thought, thank God for that. He's actually realised that he's bloody Batman.
About time.
He's probably the only last one left, wasn't he? I think everyone else had clocked onto who Batman was. It's just Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression of when the bat took off that everyone turned round to Gordon and went, "What? You just realised that?
You idiot!" Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, "What?" But yeah, because he talks about putting the coat around the little boy's shoulders, and then they give everyone a helpful flashback, don't they?
Yep. And then and then Stu, we get to the last scene. Talk to me about that last scene with Alfred at the coffee shop. The cafe, I think, in France.
For me, it would have been so much better. It would have been an amazing ending and a real talking point that we would have spoken about for ages. Having had Alfred go to the cafe, he's reading the paper, he looks up, and then it just stops. It cuts away. And you'd be thinking, has he just seen Batman? You could take away your own ending.
That'd have been good. I like the fact that
would be great.
I think that probably would have been a better way to end it. I like the fact that he saw Batman. It made me happy because I like my happy endings. Unfortunately, I'm sad. But I think in terms of the talking point, him looking up and giving like a half smile, but then was it really a smile? Yeah. I thought that would have been fantastic.
Yeah, it gives. Yeah, it was kind of a half kind of smile, and I think that's all they needed to do. I mean, that would have been enough for me. Yeah, he's found him. He's alive.
Yeah, because you could answer that. Absolutely. He's found him, or he's been reminded of Bruce, which is making him smile. It could have been infinite.
Yeah. What did you think, Nim?
Well, I was just, like I said, I think I was a bit confused really at first because I thought it was Alfred imagining. That's what because he mentions to him, he goes, "That's what I want for you." So I was just thinking, well, he's definitely dead, and he's imagining what it would have been like. But I actually quite liked it when I clocked onto the fact that he's still alive. I thought, well, that's good because nobody wants Batman to die. I don't want Batman to die. That would have been horrible. I wouldn't be able to sleep all night. So I'm glad.
And he found his peace. He found his inner peace.
Yeah, he's found his inner peace. And as quite rightly you pointed out, I didn't know who the girl was, and only when you pointed out that it's Anne Hathaway, Catwoman, it made me even more happier because I thought, well, he's now doesn't have to be Batman. Batman is kind of a symbol with that statue, and he something that he wanted to do in part 2, didn't he? In The Dark Knight, where he just wanted to kind of walk away from that and let Gotham City deal with everything. So I think that was quite a good little thing in that scene.
Yeah.
If anyone ever wants to go to that restaurant where they were, it's actually in Italy. It's called La Loggia Bar and Restaurant, Florence, Tuscany, in Italy.
We'll do our next podcast live from there.
Yeah.
And obviously they kind of wrap it up as well.
And with Robin.
With Robin, where he goes and he gives his name as Robin, doesn't he? Blake does.
Yeah.
Yeah, then he goes, I thought that was brilliant.
That was.
Obviously, when I watched it back then, believing that there'll be a sequel done by Nolan with Robin in, that the fact he discovers the Batcave, he goes in there, the bats fly around. It's exactly the same as Batman Begins. The bats are around him. He bends down, he stands up, he's not scared at all. And then he goes on that platform which rises, and then the film ends. And I thought, man, there's going to be an awesome Batman film, or an awesome film with Robin in, because I thought he was brilliant. I mean, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was brilliant as John Blake, absolutely great.
The guy from Third Rock from the Sun, right?
I don't know. I've never seen that.
Okay, and
but
then
he's great.
And then Ben Affleck came along and ruined it all.
Yeah, sadly, There's more pictures on the net of Affleck as well, dressed up as Batman.
Do you think they will never do another Christopher Nolan follow up to this one?
No,
is that it?
I think Nolan said in an interview he's told his Batman story and he's done with it. I think.
Yeah, I think as well. I don't think it would be. It wouldn't have the same impact now. I think you'd be expecting too much, and I just don't think it would ever be the same. Really, I think it's great the way it's been left as it is.
It is, but I really think they should. I think they should have given him a blank checkbook to do the DC movies, akin to what Marvel have done. And I think they should have begged him and offered him anything to carry the DC franchise on. And I think he should have done the Superman film, and he should be doing the Batman Superman film as well. Thinking ahead, like Marvel, and someone like Nolan on board, a proven thing, and it really would have made DC, a competitor. I think against the the might of the Marvel franchise.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, just with his name by it and what he's done, he's got so much caliber behind him that you'd go and watch it anyway. You would. So
guys, best bit, worst bit. I'll go first. For me, I'm giving the film. I enjoyed this film more than Batman Begins, but because of the best bit for me was, funny enough, was Bane.
You enjoyed the film more than Batman Begins. Why?
Because it was so epic, and for the first time you got someone, this guy broke Batman's back, and I think the story. I think the origin stories are always going to be, I think, a tiny bit weak compared to what we had in the sequels and things like that. And I felt the same with, for example, the first Spider-Man film, the Tobey Maguire, the origin story. I thought the second one was really awesome. And I think with the origin story, you're forced to tell an origin story. And I always think that's going to be a weaker story to something like, for example, The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. It was a fantastic story, but the big negative for me was, for the first time in this Batman series, I really had to suspend my disbelief, and I really felt that there were some, I want to call them plot holes, and that's the big negative for me. But I'm giving it a 4.5, the same score I gave Batman Begins, because of the negative things. I feel like I can't ignore them if I'm going to judge this film. But the best bit for me was Bane, and the worst bit was the inconsistencies and the fact that I had to, for the first time in this Batman trilogy, suspend my disbelief. On to you guys.
Nim, what do you think, mate? Put you on the spot.
What do I think? Well, first of all, I think you're probably going to hate me for saying this, but I think this is the best one out of all of them, even better than the first one. Probably for the same kind of reason, a little bit what James has touched on. I think the first one was a great film. Now looking at watching the third one, I think I would probably even downgrade the Dark Knight to like a 3.5 or something, because
whoa.
Yeah, seriously. So what was that all about as a sequel? This is a sequel. And like I said, the first one, okay, fine, it's going to be a little bit weak because introducing characters and putting all the stories into place. But as much as inconsistency, a little bit of inconsistency in this one, I absolutely enjoyed it, and for that I've got to give it a 5. Worst bit, I don't know, I can't even think of the worst bit, but the best bit I've got to say is when Batman was getting his ass kicked, and maybe the prison scene when he's trying to get out. Yeah,
blimey. That's interesting. That's two people who have said that it's better than The Dark Knight. I mean,
no, for me, Dark Knight, I gave it a 5. That's the best.
You think The Dark Knight is the best one?
I gave Batman Begins a 4.5. I gave The Dark Knight a 5. I thought that was the best film in this trilogy, and this one a 4.5 because even though I think the story was great, I probably enjoyed it more than Begins. I cannot ignore the fact that I had to suspend my disbelief for the first time and the plot holes. That annoyed me enough for me to give it a mark equal to Batman Begins. But The Dark Knight for me is the best in this trilogy. Stu?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'd give it a 4.5. I gave Batman The Dark Knight a 5.
Yep.
Purely, again, exactly the same reasons as you say, Jay, that there were parts in there that made me question. Whereas The Dark Knight, I was on board all the way through, and this film, if I had to sit on the choice of watching all three of the films, I'd always choose The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And I think that's mainly because of Heath Ledger's performance. I thought it was so compelling that every time he was on the screen, he got my attention, and he was such an interesting character. Where I found the Bane was a good character. I enjoyed him, and I don't know if it's because so many people had different major roles at different points in the movie that there wasn't a single character who stood out. That the reason why the Joker is such a good, interesting character. But I mean, the best bit in the film for me, it's very difficult. I mean, I have to agree with Nim. I like it when Batman gets his ass kicked. You just never see Batman on the end of an ass kicking, that he's so vulnerable and so weak. But it's that, along with the scenes where Alfred, I thought they were really powerful scenes. The part when he retired, I thought that was a brilliant scene. There's no special effects, it's just acting. I thought that was good. The worst part was probably the stock exchange part for me. That I thought that was a bit of a weak part in the film, but again, I invested everything into the film and I could let it go. But if you had to be critical, which we are, that was the worst part of the film.
Do you think then, Stu, because you and I basically said it's not as good as The Dark Knight, do you think The Dark Knight was so good this was almost inevitable that it was going to fail or not live up to the hype? Do you think it was a victim of its own success, almost?
I think to a certain extent it was. The fact, again, that the Joker, on the back of Jack Nicholson's performance and Heath Ledger coming in, and people thinking, well, he's going to fall flat on his face, he's not going to do a good job. The fact that he did such an outstanding job and the films are so good that I think you're right. I think that they were a victim partly to their own success, but that's not a bad thing, because I mean, they didn't, when they did The Dark Knight Rises, they revealed so little details about the film, with spoilers and the trailers, that people just went to see it anyway on the back of The Dark Knight, because it was just such a huge film.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a good thing in a way, but I mean, Nim liked the film, so many other people did. But it's just, I mean, I'll give it a 4.5. So it's still much better than The Goonies.
There you go. Well, there you go. That's obviously our Batman trilogy. For me, this trilogy's up there with Star Wars, Indiana Jones, things like that, surely.
Definitely. I mean, it's not often that you get a film where you could happily watch, after watching all of them, happily just pick anyone out and just sit and watch it.
Yeah. Absolutely. What do you think, then, with this trilogy? Have the last word.
I mean, I'd again agree with Stu, but I'd only pick out Batman Begins, and I really now don't like The Dark Knight, and that sounds really bizarre because you two really like it, and I know there's a lot of people that like Dark Knight and rate it. Maybe I need to watch it again, but I think, yeah, it's definitely one to kind of have in the box sets.
I mean, would you put it up there then with like the best trilogies, like your Star Wars and your Indiana Jones, in terms of a trilogy?
Yeah, definitely. It's something I'd definitely say is like in the kind of, top 10 trilogy box sets.
Yeah, they didn't mess it up like The Matrix, did they? Which is good.
Yeah, exactly. So what next? What film are we going to do next? Who's going to choose?
Nim's choice. Nim, tell us what film is next.
Yeah, I've actually changed my mind from what I said.
Well, tell Steve what you were going to say, because I don't know what you're going to say now.
Well, I've been going on about it for quite a while, and that's The Deer Hunter.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah, I remember.
I think I might have to save that for another time. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with you guys, is Django Unchained.
Excellent choice.
That's out on Blu-ray DVD now, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Okay, Django Unchained. Okay, I like that.
I have to say that I'm glad we finished this 3 films.
Yes.
I really am. I've loved them. They're just amazing films, but I'm glad we finished because they're quite heavy films to watch and critique at the same time.
I mean, I'm looking at the Skype recording. As of now, we're about 12 minutes shy of the 2-hour mark. So
yeah, it's good going. But that's great stuff. Anyway, people can follow us on Twitter at The Film Reelcast and on Facebook at The Film Reelcast, and email us. Please critique us at thefilmreelcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, well, I'll see you next time with our thoughts, and hopefully with Graham with Django Unchained. So it's bye from me.
It's goodbye from me. Download and enjoy.
Goodbye from me.
Mr. Wayne's will was not amended to reflect his more modest estate. Nonetheless, there are considerable assets to dispose of. The contents of the house are to be sold to settle the estate's accounts, and the remainder is left in its entirety to Alfred J. Pennyworth. The house and grounds are left to the city of Gotham on condition that they never be demolished, altered, or otherwise interfered with, and that they shall be used for one purpose, and one purpose only: the housing and care of the city's at-risk and orphaned children. And my clerk can help anyone with the smaller correspondences and instructions.
Blake, John?
Nothing here.
Try my legal name.
You should use your full name. I like that name. Robin.
Thanks.
Why are we even worrying about the stabilization software? This entire autopilot system is completely obsolete.
Please, I just need to know what I could have done to fix it.
But, Mr. Fox, it's already been fixed. Software patch. 6 months ago.
Check the ID on the patch.
Bruce Wayne.
Any news on the missing item?
Not yet.
We better leave no stone unturned. We can't leave a string of pearls on the manifest as lost.